In an effort to polish up the playlist and make it complete, today we're going to go over every bit of movement I might reference in the beginner series. Super Mario Odyssey is all about movement. Its slick animations, coupled with great feeling controls, make for an awesome casual experience. But all of that gets amplified once you start going faster and faster. With the versatile nature of Cappy, as well as all of the rolling mechanics, make for an awesome speedrunning experience unlike any other. But with the game being out for about 3.5 years now, there are so many things that exist. So many fast strats, so many names you have to remember. This video hopes to make that learning process just a little bit easier, just a little bit quicker. We'll not only be going over some of the simple and obvious stuff, but also some of the more advanced stuff as well. This video won't be treated as a tutorial for said strats, just sort of a glossary and overview. And you know what, I might as well just throw it out there right here at the beginning so that you guys don't complain about it. Yes, a video like this already exists. Don't complain about it. This video is different to it. It exists too. Watch both of them. I don't really care. That out of the way, let's jump right into the beginner tech. Before we get into anything else, probably the most fundamental thing in Odyssey is the cap throw, performed by either pressing the Y or X button. It doesn't seem like a whole lot by itself, but can be used to capture enemies in this game, which you then take control of and, usually furiously kill in some way or another, or can be used in various ways to end up going faster. An important thing to note about cap throws is holding the cap throw button when you perform your cap throw will let you hold out Cappy for a certain duration of time. This can be useful in a variety of different scenarios, but we don't really need to go over anything here specifically. They're just quite useful. Let's go over some jumps. There are, of course, some of the most important mechanics in any Mario game, seeing as he is the jump man after all. We, of course, have the single jump, the double jump, and the triple jump, which can all be performed by pressing the jump button the respective amount of times in a row. And in the case of the triple jump, you have to move forward at least slightly after the double jump, or nothing will happen. Each jump will give you more height than the last, with the triple giving you the most height out of any other type of jump in the game. Another important tip is that holding the jump button will allow you to jump higher, and tapping it will allow you to get a shorter hop. Cappy return jumps are a fantastic way to combine different pieces of movement. When Cappy returns to Mario, if you jump almost immediately after, you'll get added height to your jump. This can be comboed really well with cap dives by throwing an extra cap throw at the end and then proceeding to jump. There's also the ground pound jump. When you're in the air, ground pound by pressing either of the trigger buttons. Then once you've touched the floor, jumping again. This is used to either activate moons or switches, or to quickly gain some verticality. Then you also have the side flip that can be achieved by pulling the analog stick towards the opposite direction that you're traveling in, and then pressing the jump button. Honestly speaking, most of the times that you get a side flip in Odyssey, you probably don't really want it. And then a majority of the time that you do actually want a side flip, you won't be able to get one to come out. So you have that to look forward to. There's also a backflip that can be performed by standing completely still, holding either of the trigger buttons to crouch, then pressing either of the jump buttons, in this case either A or B, to backflip. Backflips are perfect to combo with cap dives when facing walls, as you can then wall jump off of them and cap dive back up top to make it up some really tall structures within the game. Of course, we also have a long jump, which can be achieved by holding the trigger button while moving and then pressing the jump button. This is a lovely way to get some distance, and in the case of Odyssey is usually used when trying to cover a gap, as rolling is of course the fastest way of travel within Odyssey. We should probably also mention diving and cap diving. To dive, when you're in the air, press the trigger button, then a cap throw button, which is either Y or X, to dive forward, or to cap dive, you first need to throw out Cappy, then proceed to do a dive, as mentioned, while also holding the cap throw button. Either, it doesn't really matter, so that Mario bounces off of Cappy. You can then combo that with another dive or cap throw and dive to get a little bit of extra distance on any dives you are trying to make. All of these jumps have their own use cases and can be used in different places in the game to go speedy as heck. But of course, we also have some movement choices that aren't related to jumps, the most important of which is rolling, and you can enter the rolling state in a few different ways. The easiest of which is to crouch by holding either trigger buttons, then pressing either of the cap throw buttons, but you can also start rolling by holding a trigger button coming out of a dive, or by pressing one of the cap throw buttons after a roll boost, which can be initiated by pressing Y shortly after a ground pound. But it should be noted, if you try to initiate a roll boost too soon after a ground pound, you'll end up getting a down throw instead. This timing has a tendency of confusing a lot of new players, so just be on the lookout for that. Another important part regarding rolls is how to stop them, as we of course don't want to bonk into anything along the way. You can either let go of the trigger button and wait until Mario has lost his momentum. You can roll cancel, or you can long jump. Each has their own time and place regarding when it's fast to do, but that's all just basic rolling. In conjunction with this, there's also roll boosting, which as a casual player, you might more likely be familiar with by pressing either the X or Y buttons while rolling. But doing it this way only gives you the big boost every couple of rolls. The fast way is to shake your controller while rolling. This allows for a big boost every single roll boost and allows you to boost much faster. This can also allow you to fight against slopes within the game. Take Sand Kingdom for example. Being able to boost every single roll boost allows you to fight those very sloped surfaces, which can get you to the point that you need to be at much faster, instead of rolling down that hill and going the wrong way. There's also roll cancelling, as mentioned before, which can be performed by pressing any combination of cap throw buttons and jump buttons at the same time. For those that might not be aware what I mean by this, the A and B buttons both do the exact same thing, and the Y and X buttons both do the exact same thing. So you can press any two of those buttons at the same time to roll cancel.
If you wish to maintain momentum coming out of a roll cancel, you must roll cancel at least about a 45-degree angle.
But you may also notice that doing this will change the direction that Mario is now traveling. We'll get into how to fix this a little bit later. This angle also slightly changes when it comes to some motion control roll cancels, but it's more of a basic rule of thumb. Speaking of, we should also quickly touch on motion controls, as it is the gimmick of Super Mario Odyssey. Motion controls in Odyssey allow you to do a lot more than just roll. You can use them to throw Cappy in a variety of different ways, as well as homing in with Cappy after you've thrown him. If you shake down, Cappy will home down. If you shake left, he'll home left, etc, etc. When you have Cappy, you can shake the controller upwards to do an up throw, sideways to do a spin throw, and if you're on Joy-Cons, downwards to do a down throw. If you're on a Pro-Con, doing this downward shake will simply result in a cap throw. You can also do this on Joy-Cons with, I believe, one Joy-Con instead. But anyway, each of these motion controls have their own use cases that can help you in wildly different scenarios. Spin throwing, for example, is great to capture things at a distance that we'll touch on later. Another important mechanic is wall jumping, which is used not only in casual Mario playthroughs, but all the way through to the top level gameplay, although we obviously try to avoid it as much as possible. It's an essential part of Mario's toolkit. Once you're on a wall, Mario will go into a sliding animation. Pressing the jump button will then allow you to jump off the wall. But even before you get that far, if you throw out Cappy towards the wall just before you go into that wall sliding animation, it allows you to maintain a little bit more height on the wall, allowing you to reach just out of grasp areas a little bit easier. This is known as cap stalling and is used quite a lot throughout the route. Another thing to mention that is super important that kind of often goes overlooked is good camera control. Being able to see what you're doing and where you're going is often vital to going fast in this game, especially once you start getting higher and higher up the leaderboards, as sometimes some strats require you to manipulate the camera in a certain way so that certain objects won't spawn in due to the way the game handles its rendering, or so that they spawn in later so you can get a better cycle, etc, etc. The best tip I can give for this is to just turn your camera sensitivity to the fastest possible from day one and getting used to it. It'll help you out in the long run more than you could ever possibly know. Then just getting into a good habit of recentering the camera with your bumper buttons when you need to. I've seen far too many people over the years just neglecting the bumper buttons when in reality they can help your run so much. But that's it for the simple stuff. We of course have more advanced things that can be done in Super Mario Odyssey, and we should take a moment to go through them. Once we've made our way past being new to the game, and we want to start doing some faster and faster movement options, there are of course a few additions you can add to your arsenal. The first bit of speedy tech you're likely to notice if you've ever seen an Odyssey run is what's known as a spin pound. This strat allows you to quickly accelerate into a roll, to quickly ground pound, or to change directions. They can be achieved by rotating your analog stick in a circle twice. Either direction is fine. This will then put you in a spinning animation, from which you can simply jump up in the air if you wish, and doing a spin pound by pressing one of the trigger buttons. This will cause you to jump and instantly ground pound, and then if you hold a direction on your analog stick, whichever direction you hold towards is the direction Mario will face when landing. So once you land, you can instantly initiate a roll by either shaking or pressing the cap throw buttons and head off in your direction of choice. It should be noted, as a lot of people often fall into confusion regarding this, Spinpounds are not faster in every scenario. While you can buffer Spinpounds during dives and rolls and cutscenes, there are scenarios where sometimes simply rolling out of a cutscene is faster than a Spinpound. I of course can't go into every single scenario here, but it's a good thing to keep in mind that getting into a habit of spin pounding every single time sometimes isn't the best option. But moving on, there's a mechanic built into Mario Odyssey that's a little bit more invisible. We call it vectoring. When Mario travels through the air along a diagonal, he gains a lot more speed, which allows you to travel further distances, making lots of tricks and strats we use today possible. Vectoring is probably one of the most important things in a lot of Odyssey strats. It should be noted that vectoring does work in some captures, like the frog in Cap Kingdom for example, but not in others like Bowser in the Moon Escape sequence. Now, we talked about roll cancelling as a way to stop your momentum, but there's another use for roll cancels. If you roll cancel in specific ways, you can maintain your momentum in intricate and useful ways. If you roll cancel at a rather steep angle, past 90 degrees, jump up in the air, and then quickly rotate your analog stick back towards the direction you want it to go, the most useful is usually forwards, for example, you can maintain all of your forward momentum. This is one of the most versatile and frequent roll cancel uses. But then of course you also have motion control roll cancels, which take this a step further. These are similar in inputs to regular roll cancels. You just replace your cap throw button with any of the respective motion control inputs. Up throw roll cancels can be useful to maintain momentum in really tight spaces, or in scenarios where Cappy would otherwise interact with or capture something nearby. I say interact with because if Cappy touches a lot of things in this game, it can cause lag, which will then cause input drops. So sometimes just simply not allowing that to happen is the best option. And then a spin throw roll cancel is exceptionally useful when it comes to capturing things from a distance, as I mentioned before. They can travel quite far, and are faster in most scenarios than throwing out Cappy and homing in. Just like normal roll cancels, motion control roll cancels can be aimed using the left analog stick, allowing spin throw roll cancels to reach even further, for example, or conserving momentum much better. Another note is that you can use any of the motion control roll cancels in lieu of a normal roll cancel to maintain your forward momentum by following similar steps that I outlined earlier. But as I did mention earlier in the video, the angle isn't always exactly the same. I find, for example, that spin throw roll cancels normally need a much steeper angle to be able to conserve momentum heading forwards, whereas up throw roll cancels are usually much more lenient and you can usually get away with a lot more. Then on the topic of roll cancels, there are also Rollcancel Bounces, which can be rather useful in a pinch, but really are quite situational and unlikely to be super common in your usual any percent run. But they allow you to roll cancel, but then maintain a lot of your vertical distance, as they are generally used over ledges. The most prominent example is probably after Snowdram, or this movement here in Wooded Kingdom. Another useful addition to your arsenal is vaults. A vault is when Mario walks or rolls into Cappy, and you get this sort of flipping animation. They can be used in a pinch to get a large amount of height, distance, and speed, especially when you do what's known as a Divevault, where you can jump, then instantly throw out Cappy, dive, pull a little bit back on the dive, hit the floor, and then press the opposite cap throw button that you would be holding to hold out Cappy to roll boost into Cappy and get an even faster vault. Divevaults, similarly to Rollcancel Bounces, aren't usually used a whole lot when it comes to any percent and whatnot, but if you find yourself doing longer categories, the easiest example for me is Old Moons, because that's what I run at the moment, you can end up using them in a whole variety of different scenarios to get to where you need to go. But another fast strat you can use to go that little bit faster in a pinch is what's known as a Shirane Bounce, or a Shirane Bounce. I don't think anybody's ever actually corrected me on the proper way to say it. This is where you throw out and hold Cappy against a wall, then either fall into, or really more often dive into, Cappy, to then get a little bit more vertical reach before wall jumping. This strat is notably used in any percent in Wooded Kingdom to get up towards the uproot when doing tree route, but is more often used as backup movement when you've made a mistake and potentially bonked and fallen down somewhere. I mean, technically, if you want to be specific, the Moon Cave Skip is also a Shirane Bounce, but I guess when it comes to Moon Gravity, it's, I don't know, maybe not often viewed as such. But it should be noted as well, just in case you want to know, if you're influenced by Moon Gravity, simply falling into Cappy is actually much more useful than diving into Cappy, because you'll get much more height out of the bounce than if you were to dive. Probably not useful for you, but it's good to know. But that's pretty much everything you need to know to get your feet off the ground to start running Super Mario Odyssey, as well as any potential immediate upgrade paths. With all this knowledge in mind, you should be able to easily bop my butt off the leaderboards in no time. If you haven't already, do consider hitting that subscribe button,
This entire beginner series took a long time to throw together. In the end, it's all been worth it, but, you know, these things do help out. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one.